Today on Hillbilly Voodoo, we're going to discuss how you can do all your projects for free. Now, if you believe that, you're an idiot. So keep watching Hillbilly Voodoo, and I'll tell you why you're an idiot. Now, before I get into the whole idea of recycling and the building everything out of ground obtainium, I'd like to give you a little disclaimer that I am by no means save the world and green and furry and all that type of thing. If you guys decide you're going to destroy this planet and turn it into some post-apocalyptic wasteland, well, guess what? I'll probably be a god with the skills that I have, so you guys go right ahead and do it. What that means, do I think recycling's a good idea? Hell yeah, it's a good idea. You should use what you have to make what you want. And if you don't have it, you should go out and find it and use it. Is it free? No, it's not free at all. You might get the materials for free, but you have to spend the time and the energy to actually make something out of those free materials. So let's go take a little bit of a wander around here, and I'll discuss the pros and cons of building stuff out of things that maybe you shouldn't build them out of. Now, if you're subscribed to the Hillbilly Voodoo channel, you know that we build what we build out of what I like to call ground obtainium, and that's all the junk that I have laying around here on the ground. Now, I try really hard to not pay for anything because, well, it's not really worth anything. All the machines that I build out of scraps, stuff that other people don't want in their yards. Now, that being said, also, ground obtainium might be free, no money, but it is by no means free without labor. You have to spend the time to go pick this stuff up. And what are you going to pick this stuff up in? Well, if you don't want to push it home in a shopping cart, then you're probably going to need, at the very least, a car, preferably a truck to put the stuff in. And depending on how big a stuff you need, or want, or find, you might need a trailer too. Yeah, trailer. Now, both of these things cost money. That trailer, well, to buy that trailer new is over $8 grand. To buy that truck new, yeah, I don't even want to know how much it would be to buy that truck new. You don't need new stuff to go pick up ground obtainium, but you need something that's probably reliable, because there's nothing worse than having a truckload of stuff and then having your truck turn into the ground obtainium. Yeah, break down, be no longer good, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. So, already your load of ground obtainium is going to cost you money for gas, going to cost you money for insurance. See, it's not free. Also, you had to spend the time to stick that stuff in the back of your truck. Probably wasn't in the ideal location. That's why it was free, and they wanted to get rid of it. So there you go. There's your time. Time is money. I don't care what type of business you're in. Yeah, you got to spend time doing it. It's costing you money. If you want to make money, go work at 7-Eleven for minimum wage. Recycling ain't the way to do it. Unless you're doing it on a massive scale. But yeah, that's probably not going to happen in a pickup truck. So what else are you going to need? You're going to need a space to put all that ground obtainium when you get it home. If you're not using it on your project right away, then what are you going to do with it? It's going to become ground obtainium, right? It's going to be laying on the ground of your house, and you need the room to put it. Guess what? It looks like garbage. Your yard's going to look like crap. If you can't deal with that fact, or if you have dickhead neighbors, well, then you're probably not going to be able to have a whole bunch of crap all over the place. Yeah, see? There's crap everywhere. And that's something that nobody is going to tell you about the whole recycling process. If you want to use something, you have to have somewhere to put it. And you have to have somewhere to keep it until you use it. And that is the mess of recycling. So, what else are you going to need? If you're just dealing in small scale materials, then you can usually just hand bomb them if you're not an old cripple guy like me. But if you're dealing in larger things, you're going to need some type of machinery, equipment to move it. Yeah, you don't think about that part. You might be able to get it loaded onto your trailer at some place with a forklift. But when you get it home, how are you going to get it off? Yeah, that's the hardest part, getting off. Anyways, you're going to need something to pick that stuff up with, or move it around your yard, or make it accessible. So that costs you money too. Yeah, equipment is what costs the money.
It's not the materials itself. It's the processing, the building the stuff, all that. It costs the money to buy the equipment. Now, what else are you going to need? Now, when you're done with the ground obtainium and you've got all the pieces off of it that you want, this just happens to be an old truck that I was using lots of stuff off of. If you've got all the ground obtainium off of it that you want, what are you going to do with that? I'm pretty sure that unless you can find somebody that wants the ground obtainium in their yard for pieces that are still left, but you've probably taken all the good stuff off. Now you're going to have to take that either to the auto wreckers or to the recyclers. If you're where I am, in the middle of nowhere, there ain't really anybody around here that's going to come and pick that kind of stuff up for you. So you have to get rid of it yourself. Yeah, you got to pick that up, you got to put that on your trailer, and you got to take it somewhere. That's going to cost you money too. Something that you need to think about. Unless you just want to die and leave it to your kids to clean up, which seems to be where I get a lot of ground obtainium from. So yeah, you got to think about the disposal of what's left over. You're not going to use everything. Well, you can try to use everything, but you're not going to. Broken windshield, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. Throw it in the bush somewhere until somebody else needs to clean it up? Yeah, it seems to be what a lot of people want to do. They want to haul this crap off into the bush somewhere, leave it for somebody else to deal with. That ain't cool. Don't do it. If I catch you doing it, I'll smack the shit out of you. So, that's another thing you need to think about. What are you going to do with all this junk when you're done using the junk off of it that you want? Now, another thing you haven't thought about yet is the processing time. Once you get that ground obtainium home, and say you want to use pieces of pipe. Well, hell, you got a lot of pieces of pipe there, but you don't have any really long stretch. So you got to chop your pieces out of there, and hopefully that you got long enough pieces that you can use. What else you got to worry about? Rust. Yeah, chances are you got it for free because it ain't pretty and it ain't pristine, and you got to clean all the rust off of it. Rust is a pain in the butt. Rust cleaning takes a long time. Now, a 20-foot piece of that pipe, brand new, probably costs you about 45 bucks. Cleaning up 20 feet of that pipe, and cutting it up and processing it is probably going to take you maybe 3 or 4 hours. So you got to decide, is my time worth the time it takes to cut up something? You're going to need the tools to cut it up with, right? You're going to need a sawzall or a grinder or a torch or whatever. That's going to cost you money also. Now, is this an economical thing to do? Well, you're getting the materials for free. If you can make what you need out of those materials, then that's good. But the materials aren't necessarily free because you've cost yourself consumables, torch gas, grinder wheels, saw blades, stuff like that. So it's kind of something that you need to decide for yourself. If you got lots of time on your hands and you got the access to the materials, then it's probably a really good thing. But is the economy of it something that you want to deal with? That's a big question that you need to ask yourself. A project that I do would probably take a quarter the amount of time that I take making it if I didn't have to clean up all the pieces or scavenge all the pieces. Scavenging 20 feet of that pipe right there, like I say, probably take 4 hours to do. That's 4 hours that you can't spend working on the actual project that you're going to put that material on. Okay, that's enough of that babbling. Let's go down and take a look at some of the projects that we're making and the logistics of using this recycled material on those projects. Now this here is our Sherp style bug out buggy. It's a creation that's going to look like a Sherp, hopefully, when we get it done. And it's made out of 100% ground obtainium. We have not purchased any pieces for this thing so far. All the body and the chassis is made out of an old oil tank that we have cut into strips, made square stock out of it, made our frame and our skeleton from it. If you're subscribed to the channel, you can go back and check this out. Even if you're not subscribed to the channel, go back and check this out. Now, the problem with using stuff that you get for free, it's probably not the optimum material to be using. if I was to build this out of stuff that I was purchasing, I would have went out and purchased square stock material instead of building my own out of an oil tank. Buying a chunk of square stock material, cutting it up, building this frame probably would have took me maybe 4 or 5 hours to do total. Cutting, welding, stuff like that, not a big deal. You got the materials, the square stock. This stuff that I've put together has taken me over 100 hours to do because I started out with a chunk of flat stock and had to make square stock out of it. That is time. That is time. Time is money. Remember that. Even if you're working for somebody else, time is money. Yeah. Now, I need rims. I started making rims. The rims that I started making weren't working out. I used a whole bunch of material, cut up a whole bunch of stuff. Now I'm on to these rims. These rims seem to be working out, but I don't know if they're going to work out or not. That's more material, more time, more labor. Made out of ground obtainium, I didn't have to pay for the materials, but in order to make that, I had to have the time to do it. And this is what we're left off with. This is one of the cones that I made to originally try to make my rim out of. The whole idea was sound, but it didn't quite work because the materials I have were ground obtainium. Extremely thin. Not thick enough to make a rim out of. And then after butt welding them together, I realized, this is going to be a pressure vessel. I have, I think that's 22 gauge, butt welded together in a pressure vessel. Not a super good idea. So, because I was building it out of ground obtainium and not out of materials that were probably suitable for the project, this was a huge waste of time. Not only that, like I said before, the mess. All this metal had to have the rust cleaned off of it to be usable. And now I have a whole bunch of scrap pieces of metal. I'll use a lot of this stuff yet, but I have to have somewhere to put it, somewhere to store it, somewhere where it's not in the way. That's another one of the pains in the butt about using recycled materials, somewhere to put it away. And as you can see, I'm not very good at that. Now, another hard part, like I said, is the fact that the materials that you have, that you found, might not be the materials that you need. And then you're going to try to make these materials work for what you need. I needed, the other day, a 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch chunk of flat stock for that metal ring right there. Now, I got ground obtainium everywhere. Do you think that I could find a 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch chunk of flat stock that I could wrap into that ring? No, I couldn't find it anywhere. What I did find was an old truck leaf spring, 1/4 inch. So I cut a bunch of 1/2 inch strips out of that. Now that took time. That took a lot of time. Cutting it with a zip cut wheel, disc, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it took a hell of a lot of time. And was it long enough to wrap into a circle that big? No, I had to weld 2 pieces together end to end to wrap into a circle that big. Ground obtainium is great when you got the ground obtainium that you need, which is very, very rare. Why is it rare? Because you've probably already used it on a different project because it was a good thing. And then you didn't have enough of it, so now you gotta make the stuff that you need. If you have the stuff that you need to make the stuff that you need out of, then you're okay. But if you don't, then you're SOL, and you gotta figure something else out. There's that rim that I started making, and it's just not going to work. Like I say, the materials are not the materials that they should be made out of, and a pressure vessel should probably be a little bit thicker than what I'm making it out of, and butt welding together, yeah, not a super good idea. So we're working on a new plan. But anyways, that's not what this whole subject is about today. So I guess in summary, can you build these projects for free? No. Nothing in life is free, guys, unfortunately, except for people's opinions. And you know what opinions are good for, right? Exactly. Can it be built for super cheap? Yes. Is this going to be a lot less expensive than you going out and buying the materials? Yes. It will be less financially a burden, but you are going to have to work at it. And it's going to take some skills. You're not going to go out and grab a bunch of chunks of trampoline pipe and build a motorcycle out of it if you don't have any skills. Practicing those skills is half the battle. It's the fun part. If you're not doing this type of stuff for the fun and you're trying to make money out of it, you're an idiot. It ain't going to happen. Yeah, not doing it this way. Yeah, it might not have a lot of money out of your pocket, but you're not going to be making a lot of money either. So I think we'll leave this kind of rant here for a while. Hopefully my body is healed up enough that we can get back to actually building real things here, and the next video coming out will be such a ranting, babbling, yeah, who am I kidding? I like ranting and babbling. But anyways, until next time, guys, use what you got or what you can find to make what you want, because that's half the battle. And I'll see you guys later.